Some stories begin not with a bang, but a whisper, a silence so heavy, it fills a room. In courtroom 4B, all eyes were on Elena Marquez, accused of betraying those she cared for. Elena sat silent, her stillness mistaken for guilt. People are uncomfortable with silence. When we don't get explanations, we invent them. In that courtroom, silence was louder than any words, until it was about to be broken. Enter Mr. Davies, the prosecutor, a man who moved with certainty and spoke with sharp authority. He addressed the jury as a storyteller, painting Elena as a villain driven by greed. He spoke of trust, of helpless victims, and pointed every word at Elena. She does not deny it, he said. She cannot even look you in the eye. He paraded evidence, bank statements, security logs, a missing $8,500. The victim, Mr. Arthur Pendleton, was too ill to attend, Davies said, making Elena's silence seem even more damning. The jury was captivated, eager for a simple story of good versus evil. Davies presented Elena as a wolf in sheep's clothing, her modest life suddenly flush with unexplained cash. Where did she get the money? She won't say, "So I will," he declared. His logic was airtight, his performance flawless. Through it all, Elena sat motionless, her silence a vacuum Davies filled with his own truth. Her lawyer pleaded for her to speak, but she only shook her head. The courtroom was his stage, and he was the star. The jury followed his lead, ready to believe. Elena's silence was his greatest weapon. The story seemed complete, but stories can change in an instant, and this one was far from over. Sometimes the loudest voice isn't the truest. The trial pressed on, each witness adding to the narrative of Elena's guilt. The director called her secretive. A nurse said she seemed worried before the money vanished. Every detail, no matter how innocent, was twisted to fit the prosecutor's story. Then came a twist. New evidence. A crumpled, denied loan application with Elena's name. Davies claimed it was motive. Desperate for money, she found an easier source. The jury's mind seemed made up. Elena's lawyer argued the evidence was circumstantial, that silence isn't a crime, but his voice was lost in the storm of accusation. How do you defend someone who won't defend herself? Elena's silence let everyone project their own fears onto her. She became a symbol of betrayal, her quiet condemning her. The weight of judgment was crushing, yet Elena sat, unbroken, silent. The room grew colder, the stares harder. No one wrote her a happy ending, but the story wasn't finished. Sometimes, silence is the only shield left. Just as the verdict seemed inevitable, the unexpected happened. The bailiff delivered a note to the judge, who announced a new witness for the defense. The courtroom buzzed with confusion and anticipation. The doors opened, and a nurse wheeled in, a frail old man, Arthur Pendleton himself. The supposed victim, thought too ill to attend, was here. His eyes were sharp as he scanned the room, landing on Elena with a gentle smile. Mr. Davies was speechless. This was not part of his script. Elena's lawyer rushed to the wheelchair, whispering urgently. For the first time, Elena moved, meeting Arthur's gaze. There was no fear, only sadness and affection. The room felt the shift. The story was unraveling. The narrative of guilt was cracking. The victim was not who they thought. Elena's silence took on new meaning. The courtroom held its breath. The truth was about to speak. Sometimes the most important witness is the one you never expect. The story everyone thought they knew was about to change. The silence was now filled with hope. The next words would change everything. The real story was finally stepping into the light, and the courtroom was ready to listen. Arthur Pendleton took the stand, his voice frail but determined. He looked at Elena and called her his best friend. The courtroom was stunned. "Did Elena steal from you?" the lawyer asked. Arthur laughed softly. "Stole? No, I gave her the money." Gasps filled the room. "Why?" "For her sister's sick child," he explained. Elena tried to get a loan, but was denied. She never asked for help, but Arthur saw her struggle. The money wasn't his life savings. It was an old lottery win, forgotten until now. What good is money if you can't help someone you care about? He made Elena promise not to tell, to protect her from the home's rules. Then he had a stroke, unable to speak as Elena was accused. It took weeks for him to recover enough to write a note and ask to testify. She wasn't silent out of guilt. She was keeping a promise. The truth, long hidden, was finally free. The prosecutor's story collapsed. Elena's silence was loyalty, not confession. The courtroom saw her in a new light. Sometimes the greatest strength is in keeping a promise. The truth had waited in the quiet. Now it was heard. The story had changed. Elena's silence was her honor, and the world finally understood. The prosecutor's case shattered. Davies tried to challenge Arthur's memory, but Arthur stood firm. He produced a note confirming the gift for Elena's niece. The judge read it, his sternness melting away. The evidence once used against Elena now proved her innocence. The deposit slip was a receipt for kindness. The loan application, a sign of desperation, not guilt. Elena's silence was revealed as an act of loyalty. She was willing to risk everything to keep her word. The jury saw the real story, not one of theft, but of sacrifice and friendship. Elena was no longer a villain, but a hero of quiet strength. The courtroom was silent, filled with awe and regret. The truth had broken through. Sometimes, the strongest defense is a promise kept. The case was over. The lesson was clear. Not all stories are what they seem. The judge dismissed the case without hesitation. He addressed Elena with respect. "You are a woman of remarkable character." Elena nodded, then knelt beside Arthur, taking his hand. The prosecutor packed up in silence, humbled by the truth he'd missed. The courtroom emptied, leaving only the lesson behind. People realized they'd judged too quickly, mistaking silence for guilt. Elena's strength was in her endurance, her loyalty, her quiet. That day, everyone learned, truth doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it waits in the heart of a good person. The story would linger, a reminder that not every hero fights loudly. Before judging, seek to understand. The silence that once condemned Elena now spoke of her courage. The world left the courtroom changed. The truth had been heard at last. Some battles are won with silence, and some stories are worth listening to, all the way to the end.
What's something people don't know about stories? They never truly end. There's always a new adventure waiting for you. Just pick your next tale and I'll meet you there. Subscribe to the Story Circle and let me know which story I should tell next in the comments.